Death Guard Plague Marines. Do they have use? Do they have play? I think they do. Let's find out in this video. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to this video. But before we get into it, let's play some builds. I'd like to ask everybody hit that like, subscribe, notification button somewhere in the bottom there. It really does help the channel grow, help to break those algorithms. And I'd like to thank everybody who's done so already. Also, we do have a membership for those who do appreciate what I do, and I know you guys do because you hit that like and stuff, and I get some great comments. If you just want to go a little step further, we do have a membership. We do have some perks and prizes inside, perks and giveaways and stuff. There is a video that is going to be connected into the description below. We'll say membership information. You can watch that video, learn all about it. I'd like to congratulate Kyle, the first member who will receive his very own billboard. I will feature Kyle's billboard. He asked me to just keep the recess one and then put his name in graffiti on it, which I did, and that will be played throughout my battle reps for the next month. Also, just making something up a little bit to show you that they can customize them. Alias, which was Jessica Jones Netflix show, great show. This is for the MCP players. You'll recognize that right away if you're an MCP player. It was a good show. Christian Witter did a phenomenal job. Not sponsored by Netflix or anything, but it is good. Enough with all that. Let's get into what we talked about, or get into what you guys are all about. And that's Plague Marines. I think Plague Marines are good. I really do. I think after the data slate drop, where a 5-man unit became 80 points. 80 points, guys. Think about this for 1 second. All right, before we get into everything, we got to think about the breakdown of what Space Marines do offer, right? So 5-man, 80 points. 7-man, 110 points, right? At 10-man is 160 points. So this is actually a really good price. I know some of you guys like to play Cultists because of the scout move. Their own Cultists are only somewhere around 55 points or 60 points or something like that. But, and I know I got a feeling of pain, but Plague Marines being 2 wounds, toughness 5. They do have Remorseless, so their leadership is 6. Adding 1 makes it 7. It's pretty durable. It's a pretty durable unit for 80 points. I mean, when's the last time you've seen any kind of durable unit literally just sitting there for 80 points? This is I think, a unit that is in some cases not utilized as well. In other cases, I know there are tournament winners. If you're looking at the competitive aspect of this, there are tournament lists that do have Plague Marines in. But I mean, like I said, at 80 points, then connecting characters, which are really cheap. But we're going to go down the list. But I think having a 5-man unit, personally, I like to bring them in a 7-man unit for 110 points, which is basically just like a unit of Space Marines or any kind of if you're a loyalist or any kind of battlefield unit or battle line unit, right around 100 points. But you're getting them for 80 points. I think GW realizes that the Space Plague Marines by themselves maybe weren't seeing a lot of play, especially because there's a lot of tougher things in the Death Guard Codex. But I don't want to go on a rant with that. We'll do that for another video. But I think for playing the mission, having a unit, at least a 5-man unit, even a couple of them, if you put 3 5-man units of Plague Marines in there, which you have a 160 plus another 240 points for 15 with a 3 5-man unit, that's toughness 5 with 2 wounds and 2 OC. Remember, they're 2 OC and have the leaderships and have a leadership of 7 with Remorseless. I mean, the OC in that's just actually pretty big because you have 10 OC on an objective at a toughness 5. Really, really, if you're not playing Plague Marines, you need to look into it a little bit more. I mean, they have some downfalls, right? 5 movement. They're not really killy unless you make them like a melee, which you can fit like 2. If in a 5-man unit, you can put a bubonic and 2 heavies, including the champion. I like to run a person, like I said, 70, where a 7-man unit where I can put in 3 3 bubonic weapons, and 2 heavy plague weapons, which I think is pretty good. So at this point, Plague Marines I think should be getting some play. And if you aren't playing them, really consider them even just as a 5-man unit. They are, in my opinion, better than Cultist for the extra 20 points that you're paying, or 25 points. My opinion, okay? I'm not saying Cultists are bad. I'm just saying I think I choose Plague Marines over Cultists. The other thing I want to take a look at is I'm going to put it on the screen now as we go through these characters. I want to look at some of the characters. And then at the end of this video, I want to get into some of the combinations that I think are good. And I want you guys to tell me what your combinations are as well. So let's take a look at the icon bearer for first. So the icon bearer is this guy is actually, what makes the icon bearer good is that he's 45 points. Okay, 45 points. He adds 1 to the OC. Okay, he adds 1 to the OC, meaning that now your 5-man unit, or let's just for discussion purposes, because I like to run them. I like to run them in 7-man. Okay, so in a 7-man unit, you have OC already 14, right? Now I'm adding for 45 points. I'm adding another 5 OC onto that. So I'm actually adding another whole unit. So now my 7-man Plague Marine unit, or I'm adding 7 OC onto that. Now my 7-man Plague Marine unit now becomes OC 21. And it's a hard unit to take off the board. If you only want to run them in 5, and if you only want to run them with 80 points, that's 125 points, 5-man unit plus the icon bearer, 125 points. That is a total of 15 OC plus the icon bearer, which is 1 goes to 2 because of his own ability. So now that's 17, 15, 16, 17 OC. That's pretty good to put on an objective, especially in the back lines, but we'll get more into that later. So icon bearer, I think, is pretty good. Should he be in a list? I think in a game where we have OC, where we have OC that's important, I think he should be in the list at least with the 5-man unit at least. That's 100 and like I said, 125 points. I think maybe if you want to put a con against this, he's 45 points to include in that. But it's like taking 6-man Plague Marine unit. You know what I mean? So I think he's good. I think he does have play. And I think he should be in some of the combinations that we throw up, right? Let's take a look at the Plague Surgeon now. The Plague Surgeon, who is 65 points, he's a little bit more expensive, but what he does when you partner him up into a unit, he lets you bring one back. So for 65 points, bringing a guy back is actually pretty nice, especially if you have him in a tough unit like a 7-man unit, or if you run 10-man unit of Plague Marines. When you bring him into that, and typically you're going to get 1 or 2 lost in a combat unless someone's concentrating a lot of firepower on them, and you can bring one guy back. You keep one guy back, and that's great. Now the other thing, real quick, to touch on with characters, at least the characters, we're going to go all the way down to the Death Lord Terminator. Actually, all these guys can be, except for the Chaos Lord, can be used in twice, meaning 2 characters at a time. So you can bring the icon bearer along with the Plague Surgeon to make your 7-man into a 9-man, or you can bring your 5-man and make it a 7-man. And both of these guys have 4 wounds extra. So now you have to kill. I mean, you have to kill a lot of wounds at toughness 5 to try to take this unit off the board. So that's that. But we'll get into that more combinations later. The Plague Surgeon also slaps a little bit. I mean, the guy has 4 attacks. He's got 4 attacks. He hits on 3s. It's strength 5. It's -2 AP, which is pretty good. And it's 2 damage. I mean, he does slap a little bit here. He's not bad when you take a look at it. The one thing I forgot to tell you about the icon bearer is once per game he can extend that range up to 12 inches, that contagion range. So putting him into contagion range is if they're within containment range, and having him extend that by 12 is actually pretty good late game, depending on what when you're choosing. I mean, it really doesn't depend. I mean, if you're going to be 1 minus OC in leadership, that's actually pretty good. If you're going to be -1 to the save, that's actually pretty good. You know what I mean? Late in the game. So yeah, so that's the Icon Bearer. That's the Plague Surgeon. Let's go to one of my personal favorites to show them on the screen here. Is the Tallyman, and the Tallyman for me, I think is one of in my particular opinion, he is a must-have. He brings being able to, and we'll read this together in the malicious calculations. He actually adds 1 to the hit roll, which is pretty good, and also with the 7-fold chat, he give on a 7 he gives you 1 CP. In my opinion, I like that because I find that I'm relying a lot on these CP when I'm going through my games. You'll see when you watch my bat reps, I do Cloud of Flies a lot. I do re-rolls a lot. I do stuff that smoke screen if I can. I do things that are actually pretty that are vital to my game. And now with Sanguineous Flux, which we'll get into when I do a Terminator video, is really good. And being able to do that for 1 CP is actually pretty good. So either way, him getting a CP does help. At least my play style, because I'm a very CP heavy person and I rely a lot on CP to put my guys in situations. So the Tallyman also is toughness 5, hits on 3s. He's got 4 wounds. Again, all these characters have 4 wounds. And he's leadership 6, going up to 7 if you put him in an Icon Bearer, and he's OC 1. It does have a plasma weapon, but you know what? I do want him to stand the table, so I'm probably not going to ever supercharge that. But to get 1 or 2 wounds and a pistol within 12 inches is pretty good, and I'm okay with that. And so, and the Tallyman is only 45 points. So again, you have 2 characters hanging around that 45-point range in the bearer and the Tallyman. I think they both have some very vital uses in a game played today. Personally, my opinion. Okay, let's go to the next guy. Let's look at the ever forgotten Foul Blight Spawn. The Foul Blight Spawn is really, I haven't played too many games with them. I think he has a place. But I haven't played too many games with them, really. So let's take a look at his card. Oh, as we look at his card, he only got 5 movement like the rest of the Plague Marines. He's got toughness 5 like everybody else, hits on 3s like everybody else, 4 wounds like everybody else, leadership 6 plus like everybody else, and he's OC 1. What he does do is have that putrefying stink, and that allows you to fight first. Fight first ability is actually pretty good now, because it's now just fight first. There's no more fight last, fight first, none of that stuff. That I think they've very simplified it. You come in, you fight first. It's just that simple. And then he has the melee. Then he has the Plague Sprayer, which is still his same weapon. Automatic hits. It's anti-infantry 2. It all hits. Strength 7, -2 AP, 2 damage. Still pretty good. D6 shots. You can really do some work with that if you need to, depending on what they're dropping and how you're doing it. Foul Blight Spawn is only 50 points. 50 points for fight first. I think it depends on the combination. I think it depends on whether or not where you put him, how it works, and how he's playable. I do think he has play. It's just everything else that Death Guard needs to win the game. He's not quite on the list, right? So I think between the Tallyman and the Plague Surgeon, and the Icon Bearer, I think these are guys that if you're going to put characters in and put them in with the Plague Marines, I think you can spend that 150 points to get those guys into a list of Plague Marines and make them a little bit more durable, and to make them a little bit stronger, and to make them do multiple things. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but making them, so I think those guys have play for sure. The Foul Blight Spawn, I think he's on the borderline of play, right? So I think you can put him in a good combination, but I still think he's just at 50 points. I think he's just a little bit too, I think he's on the border, right? I think he's on the fence. Yeah, I see definite situations for him, but I do also see why people don't run him. Okay, that's my take on the Foul Blight Spawn. So let's take a look at the Playcaster, the Malignant Playcaster. Throw his card up on the screen. So his card, again, all these guys are basically the same. I'm not going to read every one, but toughness 5. I'm not going to read all that. You see the dating lines are all the same. Plague Wind, 12 inches, D3 wounds. He does have a focus beam, does have Witch Fire beam or a focus beam, but it is hazardous. Not quite sure, not quite sure on how effective this is. I don't run the Plaguecaster a lot, but I mean, I guess doing damage is always effective, especially because it's toughness 6. I shouldn't say that. Fail of Corruption, again, the D3 wounds is kind of questionable because you're going to do anywhere from 1 to 3. I mean, I get it. Then let's take a look at his Gifts of Contagion, which is in your shooting phase. You roll anything above a 2, you're going to -1 in the shoot until the next shooting phase. You're going to -1 to the melee attack of an enemy. Not great. -1 to wound on the melee attack of the enemy. It's not great. I guess it is if someone's coming in at you. And then Pestilent Fallout is if you do hit someone with Plague Marine, make a Plague Wind attack on it, then and it wounds an enemy infantry, that is minus to the movement and -2 from the movement, -2 from the advance and charge roll. When you look at all that, and he is the Playcaster is 65 points, and yeah, I think he could do a lot. Possibly -1 to wound is very helpful. I think and Plague Wind is only 12 inches, so I think when you're in 12 inches, automatically the only time that really the Pestilent Fallout is going to be effective is if your opponent is within that 10, 11, 12 range, right? Because I just -1, -2 to charge. A good player sets that up where his charge is only going to be anywhere from 5 inches, and bumping out to 7 is decent. I'm not going to say it isn't, but to put him into a list, I think he personally is out of. He must be in the list. I don't think he's borderline. Again, these are my opinions. I like to know what you guys think. I like to know how you guys run the Playcaster. I get -1 to wound. It could be very strong, especially when you combo that with Cloud of Flies, where the -1 to hit and -1 to wound. I get it against things like plague, custodes that are hitting you on 3s and typically wounding you on 2s and 3s. I get putting you on 4s, keeps you alive a little bit more. I understand it, but 65 points to add that to a unit to make your 5-man Plague Marines 145 points. I don't know how great that is. Okay, I can find other things to do with that 65 points, I guess is what I'm saying. That is not, he doesn't do anything, in my opinion, that unless I'm running a complete infantry list, which then in that case I would put him in because it's a little bit different. But in lists that we're seeing now with Mortarion, Plague Burst, Growlers, Halbrutes, Plague Drones, all these guys, Terminators, you're starting to really dig deep into points. And I think for 65 points, the Playcaster is a little tough to put in the list. Let's just say it that way, right? If you like the Playcaster, please let me know. I want to know how you guys are comboing these because what I'm finding is my play style. This is just based on my play style and what I'm finding in the combinations. Now, you guys play just as much as I do, so let's see. I want to hear what you guys. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing a combination. You guys have given me. They're my bat reps. You guys have given me great insight on different things to run that I've been trying off the camera and going to be putting on the camera. So it's wonderful. So let me know how you feel about the Playcaster, and let me know how the combinations you run with them. Okay, the second guy, we'll put it up on the screen. The Ignoxious Blightbringer. As you see his card again, everything's the same as far as his data goes. Weapons also has a plasma pistol. I know plasmas can be hot in Death Guard. Not a fan of killing myself with hazardous or taking wounds or whatever. So I don't use it a lot. melee weapon, not bad. Does 2 damage to Curse Bell. But he just, I mean, it hits no AP or anything. I mean, 5 attacks. I mean, it's not bad. It's not horrible. I mean, there are better, but so sticky vitality is that you get to reroll charge and advance rolls. Pretty nice when you need to. And then the bell tolls while an enemy unit was in containment range. Each time a battle shock taken, you subtract 2. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I think in 9th edition, or I'm sorry, 10th edition, subtracting 2 from battle shock is actually good. So you pair this up with the other contagion that we had, where you subtract 1 from the leadership and 1 from OC, and then you minus 2 more because of battle shock. That could be pretty good. The Blightbringer is 50 points, so he does run that line as the Foul Blightspawn does. I think he walks that line of he could be very effective, putting in the right list and right situation, but he also can be, for 50 points, he can be useless depending on how you're going to use them. So he walks that borderline, and I think because of that, subtracting 2 from your player's battle shock test is actually pretty nice. When you're subtracting 2 and then you're subtracting 1 because of the play company or the sickness, that's actually I think usable in some situations, especially late game when you're pairing them up with 5 to 7 Plague Marines that are also toughness 5 as well, and 2 wounds each. So there is play for the Blightbringer. I just think he's on that fence where it's like, yeah, it's great. I can use him. And maybe he's too expensive for me in this particular list because he's 50 points. All right, let's take a look at the next guy. Next guy is the Biologist Putrefier. All right, so it's, again, same data cards. I'm not gonna repeat all the top. Range weapon, hyper grenade, hyper blight grenade, which is actually not bad. 12 inches, which is decent because we want everybody to be close. So it is lethal. It does have blast. It is assault weapon. So I'll tell you why that assault weapon is important, because when you do advance these guys, you can still do actions with the assault weapons. So if your Plague Marines are only moving 5 inches. If you advance them 7 inches, they're still eligible. At least he's still eligible to shoot when you advance them. So now it becomes an opportunity for you to do an action because he's eligible to shoot. They don't call it actions anymore, but we know what we're talking about. The plague weapon being just plague knives. I mean, plague knives, they're the same as what they've been since 8th edition. Although they're not -1 anymore. But either way, I digress. So then he has Foul Infusion, which is this model's leading unit. Weapons equipped by a model in this unit have lethal, which is great, but pretty much you're always running lethal anyway because of plague weapons. But your combi bolters become plague weapons. So I guess that's not, or combi bolters become lethal hits, which is actually pretty good, unless you're trying to do devastating wounds. It's not good. In addition, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, the critical hits are on 5s and 6s instead of just 6s. So your lethals are auto wounding or auto hitting on 5s and 6s, which is actually not bad at all. And then explosive maladies, don't know quite how to say that, but once per battle in your shooting phase, you can target a model with the grenade strat for 0 CP. I don't really use the grenade strat. If you guys use the grenade strat, that's great. So at 50 points, I don't know if he's that playable. I think because points are such a premium, there are other things for 50 points, like, for you cultist lovers out there, cultist. For 55 points, 60 points, whatever they are, I just don't think that the Putrefier does enough that I'm going to really dive deep and look at it and say, you know what, maybe I don't need a Blight Hauler or a Blow Drone. I'm going to put in the Putrefier and do something else. I don't see that actually happening. I think that he's not a player. He's not a character that you're using very often, unless you're bringing an entire infantry unit and you're playing kind of like that Terminus S type list where you're just a horde of Plague Marines. Then it's a different story. then I can see all these characters being used. But for the most part, I don't think he's coming off the shelf. Cool looking model. If you want to play because he's cool, rule of cool. Always do that. Always. Um, Even if you're going to a tournament, I'm a big fan of rule of cool. So I'm bringing my favorite stuff even at tournaments because I just want to go have fun. Okay, so we'll go to the next guy, which is the Death Guard Chaos Lord. Which, if you play the Death Guard Chaos Lord in Terminator, she basically does the same thing. You can equip them with a bunch of different weapons, combi weapons, Plague Bolt, a combi bolter. He also has a plasma. Melee is not bad. Plague Fists are pretty good with 5 attacks, -3. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s. Strength 8, -2. 2 damage is actually pretty good. I like the ability that he has where he can just roll up on an enemy unit and you can roll on a 4-up. You just suffers D3 mortal wounds. I do like that. He does have a 4-up invuln, which is actually pretty nice. And he allows you to reroll hit rolls of 1. And this guy comes in at a whopping 65 points, which I believe is the most expensive character besides the Plague Surgeon. Oh, I was wrong. Plague Caster, Plague Surgeon, both 65 points. Definitely does have play at 65 points. However, why I think he doesn't get a lot of play is because you're not really going into combat too often. Maybe in late game when you're trying to keep back objectives or deep striking, you're bringing him into combat with Plague Marines. That's kind of my feeling on that. I don't use a Plague. I don't use a Death Guard Chaos Lord at all. I do have one for my Terminators, but I do not have one for my Plague Marines. Nor am I going to get one anytime soon. Not because I think he's bad. It's just I think that 65 points can definitely be used for something else. There are like I don't think he's going to get too much play unless again you're running that big heavy Plague Marine Horde type units where are lists where you're just bringing 4, 5, 6 units of Plague Marines with just all the characters, and you're just trying to flood the board and play the objectives and try to do things like that and not bring Mortarion and any kind of demon engines, right? I don't think if there's a list out there that has done that without the demon engine, without Mortarion, and has been successful, please let me know because I haven't seen it. All right, and that's not to say it's not out there because thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people play this game, and thousands of people are Death Guard players, and they got different combinations and where they're playing and how their meta is and all that stuff. I obviously don't know all that. So let's take a look at some combinations. Okay, let's get to the part where we got some combinations. I think that, like I said, running them, we're going to just backtrack a little bit because running them in a 5-man unit for 80 points is good. I like to run that 5-man unit, 80 points, and I like to put the Tallyman back there, and I like to put the Icon Bearer back there. I'll tell you why I keep that combination in some of my lists, depending on how the game is going to go, right? But you'll see how, if you watch my at reps, you see how I do that. I think that's a good back objective holder. If you got to hold your objective, if you got to hold your home objective in your deployment zone, the Tallyman's safe, essentially back in the corner, and you have the Icon Bearer. So if someone wants to drop in, try to take that objective behind you, you at least have 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 OC on that back objective, defending it with either shooting or I run my melee because typically people want to charge in there. And when they do charge in, I can hit them if they can't, and I'm hard to take off the objective. So, but I'm keeping the Tallyman back there because I don't want that. I'm relying on 5 CP. Shouldn't say I'm relying. I'm hoping to get 5 CP at one every round from the Tallyman, and that's worth it to me to keep him hidden. So that costs 170 points. Now I know it. Some people are thinking 170 points. You're keeping them back there, and that's a waste. You're right. It could be a waste. However, if you think it's a waste, take your icon bearer out of there and just put your 5-man and your tallyman back there to hold that back objective. It also stops the deep strike, right? Also allows you to spread out, gets a deep strike. So that's benefits that I use on that. But I'm for 170 points. Yes, maybe it's a little too much, but still, I want to make sure my home objective is secure, so I can go out and spread more. Now, I know we have spread the sickness. I get it. I know everybody's going to say, well, you can spread the sickness. You can. It doesn't matter if you stand in a home objective. You're right to a point, but if you leave that home objective unguarded, then anybody can deep strike. Now there's a lot of mechanics in the game that allows you to pick up and come back down, and I don't want that to happen and lose my home objectives, because in some of those missions, your home objective is worth a lot of points to the opponent, and you don't want to give away your home objective. So I'm guarding that with 170 points, right? Also, if I do bring some Potswalkers or something else, I can use that 5-man unit, the Tallyman, the Icon, and the Plague Marines. And I can use that if I'm playing a Dawn of War without deployment or Hammer and Anvil. I can use that to kind of creep over and get the other closest objective to me, and still stay along that back lines. So really, what I do is I use that unit for a backline holder. If I got to hold this one, or I got to hold the one next to me, or the closest one to me. Especially with the icon bearer, normally people don't in games don't come to your side of the board and try to take this with heavy OC. Usually, you're trying to steal it with a small unit. With maybe 10 OC on it with a 10-man unit or whatever, or 5 OC with a 5-man unit or whatever. Where bringing a toughness 5 unit to that objective with the extra OC on it is actually helpful. So that's how I run. I just basically run along the baseline if you play basketball. All right. I also use going to another combination. I use a 7-man Plague Marine. I think they're better in 7-man at 110 points. I still think that's better than just a 5-man, but I don't want to run too much points and keep them out of the fight. So when I run a 7-man unit, I'll run the same thing: 7-man unit, icon bearer, but the Plague Surgeon. Because a Plague Surgeon, now with these guys, I could get a little bit more aggressive. I can go up to the middle objective if my Terminators start failing. I can actually creep over. If we're playing the Dawn of War, I can actually creep over and try to go along the side and get the other. If I'm looking at the board Dawn of War this way, my deployment's here. Here's my I'm in this. I have this or this. I can creep these guys out to the sides of the boards, and being able to get, that's like 25 OC that I'm creeping out and keeping behind cover. And if they do get shot at and they don't get wiped off the board, I got to play surgeon every time to bring one back. The other thing against precision, if they're shooting at your icon bearer, you can heal a character within 3 of your Plague Surgeon. Now you can also give him the enhancement to extend that by 3 inches. Now he heals characters. I didn't talk about this when we talked about the Plague Surgeon, but he also heals characters within 3. They don't have to be attached to your unit. It just says a character. So if Typhus gets hit or Mortarion, and he's by the icon character as an infantry, I'll have to make sure it's infantry or not. But a character, I believe it might be infantry. I don't think you can heal Mortarion. But double check that anyway. I'm not going to do it in this video. But with Typhus, you can heal him, right? If he gets picked off if he's trying to get shot at with a sniper rifle. Okay, so that's the other thing that the Plague Surgeon does. When you run him out with a 7-man, now it's 7, 8, 9. You have 2 units in the 7-man unit is 2 wounds, 14 wounds. Your icon bearer is 4 wounds, and your Plague Surgeon is 4 wounds as well. So you now have, you have 14 plus another 8. So what's that? 14, 8. That's 22 wounds at a toughness 5 that you're running not running in the middle of everything, but keeping in cover. And you can claw the flies these guys do. You do your strats. You can claw the flies and make them a little bit more durable, a little bit harder to hit. So you could do something like that, or you can also do the spread the sickness that makes everybody -1 ballistic skill, -1 weapon skill within contagion range, and makes them also -1 to hit, or changes their characteristic, adding one. So Cloud of Flies will actually make it almost -2 to hit. But you can run them out, and you can make it a little bit more. Try to push a little bit towards to another objective, essentially. Or you can run in either one of these. You can run the Foul Blight Spawn in there, and maybe take out the Icon Bearer. Right. I like the extra OC, but you could put in the Foul Blight Spawn, because there's a lot of armies that want to get into melee with you. And if you equip the 7-man with bubonic weapons, and 3 bubonic and 2 heavy plague weapons, they also hit a little bit harder than they normally would do. And then you can Overwatch as well with if you equip them with flamers, essentially, and with the Foul Blight Spawn, strength 7 -2 damage. I mean, you have a good battery there that you could play the mission, and you can kind of pick off some of the weaker units that might be coming up to try to contest certain objectives. The other strategy that you can have for this is you can put them in Deep Strike, right? You can put them in Deep Strike, and you can drop them down behind enemy lines. You can drop them down anywhere on the board they need to go into, and that's not bad. Putting them in Deep Strike is actually pretty good. You see me do it all the time, and they do. And by turn 2, turn 3, I do end up scoring some points in the part of the game where, depending on what cards I'm drawing, or if I need to take objectives off of people, right? So that's pretty good. The Foul Blight Spawn, again, just take out the Icon Banner if you don't want him. If you don't play at the Tallyman, put him in. I wouldn't put him in the backfield, but put him in the backfield, and put him in for the Plague Surgeon if you don't like the Plague Surgeon. All different combinations, but those are the 3 I'm using. I'm using Icon Bearer, Tallyman. I'm using the Plague Surgeon are going to be the top 3 on the list, and then subbing in the Foul Blight Spawn here and there, spying, just depending on what's going on. The other thing you could do with these units is you could put them in a Rhino. Being able to move 12, toughness 9, has 10 wounds, has a 2-up armor save, which is actually nice now that we're getting some 2-up armor saves like the Plague Burst Crawler. It self-repairs 1 wound. Does have armor tracks, which is fine. And the weapons are okay. The weapons aren't great, but the difference is with this is you can put 12 Plague Marines into the Rhino, and you can get them upfield with a little bit more protection. And that's kind of what you want. You want that protection as you move them off the field. So this way, you're not limited to the Deep Strike ability that has to happen if you Deep Strike them, right? If you Deep Strike them, they only come in on board edges, and you can't get behind your enemy's deployment line. You can't get into that. But with the Rhino, you can move up 12, and it puts a little bit of pressure on your opponent, because you have literally a unit that has 25 OC. If you go 7-man Icon Bearer and Plague Surgeon, you have a 27 OC that's about to jump out of a Rhino and basically hold down a middle objective, or an objective on each side, or an objective closer to your opponent's deployment zone, because it is 25 OC. That's going to be hard to get off the board, especially when you can bring one back with the Plague Surgeon. Yeah, so these are some combinations that I like with Plague Marines. I actually think they're better than what people give them credit for. Plus, you do have some strats and some enhancements that can go along with this stuff that are, like Cloud of Flies and Sanguinous Flux. But I think that they're better served on Terminators. Some enhancements are better served on Terminator characters, because they hit a little harder. I think Plague Marines now need to be utilized in a more tool like a Swift Army Knife type tool, right? Play the mission with them. They're very good for playing the mission, and they're inexpensive. Are you going to be upset if you lost an 80.5 man Plague Marine squad? You're not going to be upset. Why? Because you're not upset you lost a 60-man cultist squad, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have play for them. You just got to figure out, do they fit in your play style, number one? And what if they do fit in your playstyle? What job are they going to perform in the game that you're playing? Are they going to perform my actions? Are they going to go and take objectives? Are they going to put pressure on someone's backline? Are they going to hold my backline? Then are the characters going to be effective in a bunch of different ways, right? Are the characters going to be effective? Meaning, am I going to be able to fight first and keep my objective from being taken? How important is that 5 extra command points when you're talking about the tallyman? How important is that extra OC when you're fighting someone that's like when you're fighting a horde army like Tyranids or Orcs? How important is that extra OC going to be, and is it going to be effective? How effective is the Plague Surgeon going to be as far as bringing back a Marine, and how is he going to be able to heal characters? I could use them sometimes because Typhus sometimes it gets the target of a lot of attacks, right? I don't think some of the other characters are points efficient enough to go into a list that you want to bring, like I said, Mortarion or Plagueburst Crawlers or any kind of demon engines. So I think you got to pick and choose, but those are my three for sure. My three for sure: Tallyman, Icon Bearer, Plague Surgeon, and then the Blight Spawn, very spotty, but I think he has play. The other guys, I think, are on the bubble, on the out part of the bubble. Now, you guys let me know if I miss something. Let me know if you run a plague. I do see plague casters out there in lists. I just don't know how effective they are for the 65 points in those lists. Right? I have not seen a Brightbringer. I have not seen the Putrefier. I have not seen any of those. But if you guys run them and you can enlighten me on some of the combinations that you've come up with that seem to work, I'll be happy to explore it. I'll be happy to even put it on the channel and let you guys know, hey man, this was a suggestion from so and so. Let's see what it does. But yeah, with all that being said, that was kind of my take. A quick, very, very quick, and I don't know how quick it was, but a very broad take without getting into details and showing different scenarios on Plague Marines and the Plague Marine characters. And I think they do have play, especially after the data slate dropped them in points. Again, not expensive at all. But as always, guys, thanks for watching this video. Check out the membership information video just to see if it's something you might be interested in. Look forward to Kyle's sign. Look for Kyle's sign in our bat reps. So shout out to Kyle and all the other members who have all become members already. Really do appreciate it. And thanks for watching, guys. As always, God bless and peace out.